Now that we understand what value flow is and how to measure it, let's talk about the most important part, putting it into practice. Good metrics are important, but how you use them to improve your value delivery system is really important. With a clear understanding of your metrics, distribution, and constraints, you're ready to lead meaningful conversations about value flow with your team. But here's something crucial to understand first. In most cases, there's no villain in these stories. Nobody wakes up thinking, I want to make things less efficient, or I want to harm our customers. When you find problems in your value flow, they're almost always system issues, not individual failures. This perspective is essential because it changes how you approach these conversations. Your goal isn't to use these metrics as a stick to beat people with. It's to help your team see opportunities for delivering more value with less frustration. Start by asking questions that help the team discover insights for themselves. Instead of saying, our flow efficiency is terrible, try asking, what does it feel like when you're working on a feature? Where do you find yourself waiting? Teams often know exactly where the bottlenecks are. They just haven't had a framework to discuss them productively. Here's an approach that works well. Pick a recent feature your team delivered and map its journey together. Ask the team to tell the story of that feature, from idea to customer impact. Where did it move quickly? Where did it get stuck? What surprised them about the journey? This kind of collaborative exploration helps teams internalize the concepts of flow time, velocity, efficiency, and distribution in a concrete, relevant way. For example, one team I worked with thought they had a development speed problem, but when we mapped their feature's journey together, they realized something surprising. Their developers were quite fast, and the actual delays came from waiting for decisions, approvals, and coordination across teams, all tasks owned by the product manager. This shifted the conversation from how do we code faster to how do we make decisions faster. It was a complete change in perspective. One of the best questions you can ask your team is this: if we could wave a magic wand and fix one thing in our value flow, what would make the biggest difference? The answers often reveal not just process problems, but organizational and cultural opportunities for improvement. Maybe it's unclear decision-making authority, conflicting priorities, or team communication barriers. Remember, the goal of these conversations isn't to implement perfect processes. It's to create a shared understanding of how value flows through your system and where you can make meaningful improvements. When teams understand and own these metrics, they become powerful tools for continuous improvement. Now that we understand these metrics and how to discuss them with our teams, let's examine how to implement them in your organization. The key is to start small and focus on what matters most for your specific context. Many teams make the mistake of trying to measure everything at once. They set up elaborate tracking systems, create complex dashboards, and end up drowning in data without gaining real insights. Instead, start with just one metric that addresses your most significant pain point. For example, if your team is constantly interrupted by urgent issues, start by tracking flow distribution. If features take forever to reach customers, focus on flow time. If work gets stuck frequently, begin with flow efficiency. Pick the metric that will tell the most important story for your team right now. Sometimes, when teams start measuring their value flow, they discover an uncomfortable truth. Their biggest constraint isn't process inefficiency or technical limitations. It's that they're trying to do too much at once. I've seen teams spread so thin across multiple initiatives that their value flow slows to a trickle on all of them. In these cases, the solution isn't to optimize the process or add more resources, it's to do less. This might seem counterintuitive, especially in organizations that pride themselves on doing many things simultaneously. But remember, the most important thing we can do is deliver value to our customers. If our value flow is low because we're juggling too many initiatives, we must cut back and focus on doing fewer things better. Often, reducing work in progress leads to delivering more total value because we're actually finishing important work instead of making minimal progress on many fronts. But let's say you decide to start with flow time. Begin by tracking it for just one or two important features. Document when the idea is first discussed, when work begins, when it ships, and most importantly, when customers start getting value from it. Don't worry about automation at first. Even a simple spreadsheet can give you valuable insights. The goal is to learn what to measure before investing in tools to measure it. What's crucial is establishing regular checkpoints to review and act on what you're learning. Set up a monthly review where your team looks at the data together. But remember, the metrics aren't the goal. The goal is to improve how effectively you deliver value to customers. Use these reviews to identify one or two concrete improvements you can make before the next review. As your team gets comfortable with one metric, gradually add others. Build your measurement system organically, always focusing on metrics that drive meaningful improvements rather than just gathering data for data's sake. Let's talk about some pitfalls teams tumble into when implementing value flow metrics, and more importantly, how to avoid them. The first and most dangerous pitfall is using these metrics as performance indicators for individuals or teams. I've seen organizations start tracking flow efficiency, for instance, and immediately try to set targets like every team must achieve 50% flow efficiency. This completely misses the point. These metrics are meant to illuminate system and process issues, not to judge performance. The moment they become targets, they stop becoming effective tools for improvement. Another common mistake is confusing different types of velocity metrics. There was a mobile app development company that became obsessed with improving their flow velocity numbers. Their leadership pushed teams to deliver faster, setting aggressive targets for moving work through the system. Teams responded by breaking features into smaller and smaller pieces, rushing them through development and skipping proper testing and review cycles. While they could point to more frequent releases, actual customer value, measured by adoption, satisfaction, and business outcomes, plummeted. They optimized the speed of delivery rather than the flow of value, which is fundamentally different. Teams also sometimes fall into the trap of over-measuring. They track every possible metric, create elaborate dashboards, and spend more time managing their measurement system than improving their actual work. Remember, the goal isn't to have perfect metrics, it's to deliver better customer value. You may be measuring too much if you spend over 5% of your time collecting and reviewing metrics. Perhaps the most subtle pitfall is failing to account for context. Different types of work have different natural flow patterns. A critical security fix should have different flow characteristics than a major new feature. Don't try to force everything into the same measurement framework. Instead, create appropriate categories and measure similar work against similar work. The key to avoiding these pitfalls is constantly returning to the fundamental question: is this helping us deliver better value to our customers? If the answer isn't a clear yes, you might be optimizing for the wrong thing. One of the most challenging aspects of value flow management is validating that your prioritization decisions actually deliver more value. It's not enough to prioritize based on expected value. You need to measure whether those predictions hold true. The mobile app development company I mentioned learned this lesson when they analyzed their prioritization effectiveness. Initially, they prioritized features based on their product team's assumptions about user needs. While this seemed logical, when they implemented rigorous measurement of their prioritization outcomes, they discovered something surprising. Many of their high-priority features saw low adoption. In contrast, some low-priority features drove significant user engagement and retention. This discovery led them to develop a systematic approach to measuring their prioritization effectiveness. They started by tracking both the predicted and actual value of each feature they shipped. For every major feature, they would document their assumptions about its value before development began. Then, after release, they would measure the actual impact, things like user adoption, customer satisfaction, and revenue generation. This before and after comparison helped them understand how accurate their value predictions were. But they didn't stop there. They also began looking at how different priority levels affected their value flow. They found that while high priority items got more attention, they weren't necessarily moving through their system any faster than lower priority items. In fact, some high priority items were getting stuck in their system longer because they were more complex or required more coordination across teams. The real breakthrough came when they connected their prioritization exercises directly to customer impact. Instead of assuming certain features were high priority, they began validating these assumptions with actual customer data. They would measure how customers used features, what value they derived from them, and how this compared to their initial priority assessment. This approach created a powerful feedback loop. Each prioritization decision became a hypothesis that they could test and learn from. Over time, they improved at identifying valuable work, and their prioritization process became more refined and accurate. Remember, the goal isn't perfect prediction, it's learning and improving. By measuring the outcomes of your prioritization decisions, you can continuously refine your process and better identify truly valuable work. Value flow metrics aren't just another set of numbers to track. They're tools for understanding and improving how effectively your team delivers value to customers. When implemented thoughtfully, they help teams see where value gets stuck, identify opportunities for improvement, and make better decisions about where to focus their efforts. Remember these key principles as you begin working with value flow metrics. Start with the customer's perspective. Value isn't determined by what we ship, but by what customers use and benefit from. Choose metrics that matter for your context. Don't try to measure everything at once. Pick the metrics that will help you solve your most pressing problems. Use metrics to illuminate, not evaluate. These tools should help teams improve, not become another source of pressure or stress. And focus on system improvements. When you see problems in your metrics, look for process and organizational issues rather than blaming individuals or teams. Most importantly, remember that improving value flow is a journey, not a destination. Your first measurements might be surprising or even disappointing. That's normal and actually valuable information. What matters is using these insights to make steady, continuous improvements in how your team delivers value to customers. Start small, stay focused on real customer value, and keep learning. That's how you turn the concept of value flow from an abstract metric into a practical tool for building better products and happier teams.